Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome. Welcome to the session and welcome to the Inquiry Educators Summit of 2023. We've got lots of people coming in here. It's so awesome to see you guys. All right, you know the drill. Please shoot us a hello in the chat. Say where you are from. I'm Lean, and I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm joining you from Abu Dhabi and super excited for the session with Zach Smith. Thanks to him, he's joining us today. He's leading the session on moving stories and using physical expression to develop language. I am so excited. This combines all the things I love, language and kinesthetic learning, and you guys have a treat. Hello to Annie from Macau. How's it going? So just as we're waiting for everyone to jump in, please make sure that you have your Toddle Ties 2023 journals with you. You have a lot of amazing takeaways and strategies that you can take note of from this session. So please make sure to have that handy. And hey, Stephanie from Puerto Rico, how's it going? Hi, Julie from Mumbai. Oh, another one from Mumbai. Hi, Kajari. How are you guys? Hello, Mike from Tokyo. Oh, you guys are awesome. People from all over. Hey, Greg from Thailand. Hello, Berka from Turkey. And hi, Adriana, Rachel from Germany. We've got Japji from India, Lawrence from Macau. Wow, people are jumping in. I love the excitement. I love the engagement. So thanks for saying hi. Thanks for joining us. You guys are incredible. So we're just going to start with just a few housekeeping points. Um, Zach, if you could turn it over and then thanks.
Okay.
So just please make sure you guys are amazing already, but make sure to keep your videos on and yourself on mute. Hi, Andy. Love your enthusiasm from Uganda. Any questions you have, you can drop them in the chat or you can drop them under the question tab. At various times, we're going to ask you to pause and reflect. Please stay active in this chat like you already are. There is a lot of interactivity in the session coming up, but make sure you are typing to everyone. If we are asking you to take a poll or use a Mentimeter or anything like that, we'll give you the instructions at the time. And just to be clear, the session has been developed independently from and is not endorsed by the IB. So TIES 2023 is brought to you by Toddle. Zach, if we could go to the next slide, please. This is so exciting to say this year that Toddle is the world's first AI-powered teaching and learning platform. And it helps teams work together better for curriculum planning, assessment reports, family communication, and so much more. If you do not already work at a Toddle school, you might want to consider making that switch because it is founded on a teacher's first ethos and also hosts so many learning and networking events for educators, just like TIES, just like this one. Most of it is free PD and it is always available. It's super enriching. So please feel free to reach out to anybody at Toddle. I know from experience, everyone is so responsive and happy to help, and they are ready to help you make a difference at your school. You can also head over to toddleapp.com to learn more. And before I'm going to introduce our amazing speaker today, just to refresh the socials that you can use. So we would love to see what you've learned. Please get social, tag us, share your learnings, use the hashtag ToddleTies, and whatever platform you are on, there is a place for you to share. It's amazing. Hello, we've got some more people coming in from South Africa, from all over the world. This is incredible. So to introduce Zach, I'm so honored to be here at the session today and to be able to work with him. This has been amazing. Zach Smith is an American who has taught abroad since 2005. He is originally a preschool teacher and moved to early years physical education in 2009, where he also got his master's in education emphasizing in early childhood. He's taught in China and in Saudi Arabia during his career, and his journey as an inquisitive educator has led him to so many different places, but above all, Zach really believes that physical education is an integral part of the child's development, and that passion is something you are all going to feel today. I'm so excited for you. He believes that students learn best in a transdisciplinary context where authentic learning connections are made explicit and where the environment provides opportunities for them to encounter knowledge, skills, and understanding through play. So for these reasons, he's super excited to be here today and deeply devoted to moving stories using physical expression to develop language skills in students. And I'm going to let the excitement carry over to Zach, and he's going to take it away for you now.
Thank you so much, Lean. The excitement is carrying over, and I really appreciate you being the moderator for this sesh. And I really appreciate everybody who's still entering. Thank you so much for coming to learn more about moving stories as a way to use physical expression to develop language. It's a passion of mine that I've been presenting on for the past 2 years or so, and of course using for longer than that. And then also, before I get started, I just wanted to thank Toddle for the opportunity to present to all of you. It's a great platform. Actually, my school just became a Toddle school this year, and I've been having a nice time exploring all the features and learning how to use it to document learning and all the other things that it can do. So thank you very much to Toddle. And again, thanks to all of you. So as Lean said, we're going to use this presentation to explore possibilities to activate language development through physical expression. And here's a brief overview of what we will delve into during the next 45 minutes. We'll quickly come to some agreements that we can use to move forward with moving stories. So these are things that children need and ways that they learn best. I'm going to move quickly through this because I suspect we'll mostly agree about this. But we'll be touching on these assumptions throughout the presentation, so I want to make them clear. Then after that, we're going to find out exactly what are moving stories and why they are useful tools for language development. And then finally, we'll explore ways to create and use moving stories in our learning spaces to develop language skills. And actually, you guys, hopefully, we will all be creating a moving story together, or at least the basis for one during this presentation. So let's dive in to our operating assumptions for this session. So again, these are things that we will most likely agree upon as we move forward, but I just want to make them clear to all because these are the jumping off point for moving story exploration. So let's start out with foundation skills and physical skills and physicalities. You're seeing actually the image of something that I have deeply internalized from the author called Jill Connell. These physicalities that you see here, sensory development, balance, body and spatial awareness, stamina, coordination, and control are physicalities from Jill Connell's kinetic scale. I don't know if anybody has read the book, A Moving Child is a Learning Child, but I really recommend it if you have not. It's become sort of a Bible for me in my teaching, and I've actually worked with Jill Connell in person twice, and it's really inspiring because Jill believes that the body is the brain's first teacher. Now, some people would say that's the other way around, right? The brain teaches the body. No, no, no. The body teaches. Jill Connell is the name, by the way, in the chat. The body is the brain's first teacher, and physical skills are the foundation for academic and daily life. So you can see here the 6 physicalities. I had to use, we only have a pentagram here, but their coordination and control have been smashed together, and they are somewhat similar, right? So sensory development, we need to actively and explicitly teach for sensory development. The way that students experience the world is very important for learning, right? We need to activate sight, hearing, taste, touch, and all of those senses that help us intake information from the world, right? Of course, balance is important for many things. You might see this when students look unsteady on their feet, or they have a hard time sitting still at carpet time. They could be just lacking in vestibular skills or balance skills, right? So if we develop this for later learning, this is the foundation for being able to sit for longer periods of time and intake information, right? The same is true for body and spatial awareness, right? So sometimes we call this proprioception, the fancy word for it. Basically, it's your body's GPS, right? Knowing your place in space and how you fit into it, right? So this shows up all the time in learning, especially in handwriting. When we're trying to fit very many words or letters into a tight space when we should just use another line or something like that, right? That's a lack of spatial awareness, right? Or you see a kid who's always bouncing off things, bouncing into everyone. We could say, that's a very touchy child, or we could say they're lacking in proprioception skills, right? Stamina or power which is called in the book, this is somewhat of an outlook and also a physical characteristic, right? It's all the different things that we can talk about, including strength, agility, stamina, flexibility, and then your can-do attitude, your outlook on what you feel, how you feel about yourself, right? How you're willing to persevere through things. And the more stamina, the more power you have, the more willing and able you are going to be able to power through any learning that you need to do, right? And then, of course, coordination and control. Any type of fine motor or multiple body parts moving at the same time in coordination, this is very important all the time. You could think about this at art. Think about how many muscles you're putting into bear when you're coloring, for example. You're not just using your finger muscles, you're using your arm, you're using your eyes, you're holding your head still, your neck's involved, your legs are rooting you to the ground, your back and your spine are holding you up. You might be using another hand to hold the paper, and you have to do all of that at the same time just to color a picture. So it's the same with anything, a science experiment or something like that. We need to put multiple body parts in motion at the same time, and we need to be able to control them. So foundation skills, development in these areas, which Moving Stories helps accomplish, prepares learners for whatever challenges school or life may pose. And moving on to a secret ingredient that allows teachers to guide learners to merge physical skills with cognition. It's concept-based learning. So in concept-based learning, teachers guide students to explore timeless, universal, and abstract concepts. And in this, I am borrowing liberally from Lynn Erickson, who is another hero of mine, and her book, Concept-Based Teaching for the Thinking Classroom, I think is what the official title is a can't miss. So when exploring broad concepts that transcend disciplines, learners can use the skills and knowledge they naturally accrue to make synergistic connections between seemingly disparate topics. And it leads to understanding that knowledge doesn't fit neatly into separate boxes or silos, but it connects and synergizes. So in this presentation's Padlet, I have included Jo Bailey's Hierarchy of Transdisciplinary Learning, which I encourage you to peruse. She likens transdisciplinary learning as the final step, and she uses a food-based metaphor, like interdisciplinary learning is like eating just carrots or tomatoes or something, and intradisciplinary learning turns it into a salad, and we go and they become the ingredients become more and more mixed together the higher you go in level of transdisciplinary learning. And finally, transdisciplinary learning is where all the ingredients are unrecognizable. In a cake, you can't see the eggs, the flour, the butter. All you see is a delicious cake, which is the goal in transdisciplinary learning, for all the walls to fall away between disciplines, right? And it's really hard to get to. But Moving Stories promote this synergistic thinking by providing learners with a familiar yet limitless medium to formulate and display their learning across many media. So accessing kinesthetic learning through dramatic performances grounds storytelling and conceptual learning in the physical realm. and makes conceptual learning visible, authentic, fun, and active. Another assumption, and this is the last assumption I would like to proceed under, is that most humans, and thus our learners, possess an almost innate understanding of the narrative cycle known popularly as the hero's journey. So this cycle has been elucidated through Joseph Campbell's work on mythology and culture, and it's been inculcated in all of us through generations of storytelling. So the hero's journey is the basis for most of the stories and movies our learners consume, and it's a powerful driver for learning. Knowledge and use of it in moving stories propel learning forward. And you don't need to know every part of this hero's journey. Undoubtedly, you actually do. You could apply it to any story almost any story you can think of. I'm a big Harry Potter fan. It's right there in the hero's journey. Any Star Wars, Marvel type things, the things that our kids are watching follow this, and kids innately can feel these beats. And I think if you think about it, you can too, right? So to summarize our operating assumptions, we're proceeding under the assumption that physical skills are the foundation for student learning. Can we do that? Also, young learners learn best in a concept-based transdisciplinary learning environment. I think we can agree with that. Most early childhood learning occurs through transdisciplinary concepts, big ideas that the students are grasping. And later on, we get into the topics, right? Specific topics. And storytelling, our last operating assumption, is that storytelling is a powerful provocation for physical, literacy, and conceptual learning. The stories that we love, we can use those. We can exploit them for motivation, for engagement. I'll do almost anything for engagement in the classroom, and these stories really make my job easy when I need that buy-in from kids to know that this learning is going to be meaningful for them, right? So before we move on, I want to provide you with an opportunity to reflect on how our knowledge aligns with your current situation. Think about what you have just learned, and let's engage the Connect, Extend, Challenge thinking routine. Now, we have multiple ways to access this reflection and to share your reflection with the group. Of course, you can just throw it into the chat here, and Lean, the wonderful Lean, will be reading some of these out for us to share. But we can also scan the QR code with any device you have handy, and it will take you to a Mentimeter. And the Mentimeter will allow you to share this, and we can save that afterwards. And also, if you know about Mentimeter, you can use the digital or the numerical code down at the bottom there. And I believe we're also going to be throwing the link into the chat. So as we're doing that, I want you to think, how does this knowledge connect to what you already know, right? And if you want to go further, how does it provide new ideas that extend your thinking? And if you have any questions or wonderings, how does it challenge or confuse you? You can use one of those, you can use all of them. I'm going to give you a little time to think right now.
While everyone's thinking, I'm totally going to jump in. I'm loving this so far. I'm definitely that moving child that I don't believe is birth to age 7. It's birth for life. I need to move in order to learn and to teach. So that's something that I can connect with. And I love the idea of storytelling. I don't know if I would have ever connected the two of them before, but once the way that you're putting it together just really is kind of pushing my thinking on how I can bring this into the language classroom as well, or so many opportunities for that transdisciplinary learning that you're bringing in. I'm so excited for this. So go ahead, everybody, and get into that Mentimeter or the chat. You're starting to get some things into the Mentimeter already. So I can see that people are connecting to the idea that children need to physically experience an idea before making it abstract. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And that kids can connect with each topic and each other better with movement. So moving together also fosters that sense of community. These are such powerful connections.
Actually, yes. The young child is someone who goes from the concrete to the abstract, not the opposite, right? In Jill Connell's book, she has a great little saying for that. It's not A is for apple, but apple is for A, right? So they need to concretely experience apples before they can make the symbolic connection, right?
100%. And somebody's building on with that by saying that they need to feel it in the body first in order to connect it to the brain. Got someone feeling challenged in the Mentimeter saying when it comes to how to meet learning objectives consistently with a systematic way and ensuring plenty of movement. So how do you kind of reach that balance?
Ah, interesting. Well, that's when I actually create my own moving stories, which we are going to do it later on, hopefully. And so there's a couple different ways you can use a moving story. You can use one that's already existing, which we're going to see in a moment, but you can also create your own. And in that case, you are creating the conditions, right? So of course, we're probably not going to be doing writing while we're doing a moving story, but can we do writing to document our moving story? Can we add math into our moving story? What kind of concepts, whatever you want to add to your moving story, you're only limited by your own imagination, right? And the effort that you put into it, right?
Yeah, Aisha's saying that when looking back at her own experiences when she was physically moving is the things that she remembers the most. It's a great
Ah,
connection.
beautiful.
Andy's
Yeah.
connecting with what she knows from her early years learners. So movement is engagement. And she says, actually, never mind. It's not early years. It's even with staff members. If they aren't actively involved, you can't really be sure that everyone's paying attention. 100%. I am that person in your meeting, Andy. Greg is saying he's recommending actually Cosmic Yoga on YouTube as a channel.
Mm.
Would that be a good example of moving stories? I don't know if you're familiar with that, Zach.
Yeah, I totally am. She's amazing. I think that's really good. The thing that I've experienced with Cosmic Kids Yoga is that I think it's good to do it live. I don't love to see my kids and my students and even my own child when he was that young. He didn't interact, or I didn't love to see him interacting with the screen. So what I used to do is kind of watch them myself and internalize them, and then we make it our own, right? So it's kind of inspired by, if you don't want, like me, I don't love to see just a group of kids like moving with a screen in front of them, right? And also engagement can be low in that when you are not actively with them, right? But if you internalize them yourself, kind of steal, which I always do, steal from everybody, and then make them your own, I think that's a more powerful procedure there. But yes, I love that lady. I can't remember exactly what her name is, but Cosmic Kids Yoga is terrific. Sharing is caring, not stealing in education. Yes, thank you, Christine. Yeah, so then, and Lisa saying, invite the children to come up with their own yoga poses. Exactly. Something like that, I'm gonna shut our reflection down in about 1 more minute. What do you think? Yes, Jamie, that's right. Thank you, Poonam.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think people are starting to get warmed up and we're starting to share, as Christina's saying, we're starting to share some ideas out. Somebody's saying this reminds me of TPR, but I am the world's worst person when it comes to acronyms, so I'm not sure if I know what that
I don't
is.
know TPR either,
TPR,
actually.
if you want to drop that into the chat, whoever put that into the Mentimeter just to help us out a little. Tina's adding in that kids elaborate well with actions in yoga. It works out so well. I think everybody's really buying into this. And yeah. Oh, total physical
Total
response.
physical
That's it.
response.
Perfect. Thanks,
Okay,
Veronica. Okay, there we go.
remember that. Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
I've also heard about like action-based learning and brain-based education, sort of in that vein.
Yeah, going on a bear
Okay,
hunt.
well,
All right.
oh, going on
That's
it.
it.
Well, exactly. Yes. Um, thank you guys so much. You guys are really active, and I think you're ready to move on. Is it safe to say we can operate under these assumptions? I'm gonna say yes. Okay, so um, now that we've established our working assumptions, let's look closer at a moving story to understand more about this language and physical development technique. But first, a quote to frame our inquiry. And I'm just going to leave it for you guys to read for yourselves. So this proverb illustrates why we should incorporate moving stories into our teaching by emphasizing the story's power to reach our students' minds. Moving stories' movement aspect adds relevance to language development, enhancing learning opportunities by building student ownership and engagement with the text. So it's not just about developing physical skills. It's not just about developing language skills. It's about both of them together and synergizing them. So what do we mean by moving stories? We're not just talking about a powerful tale that brings a tear to your eye. So adding movement to stories is a strategy to leverage our learners' craving for drama and wonder and action. So when adding movement to literature, we create moving stories in many senses of the phrase. So moving stories can be adapted from children's literature or created for and with children. They are tales that teachers and students animate together through active, collaborative, dramatic play. We're going to watch a short video of a moving story performed by a group of K3 learners. That's age 5 to 6 in PE class. This is my class, PE. In this case, the students are moving the story Stone Soup to explore the concept of synthesis in movement composition. By collaborating to add ingredients to their soup, the children explored how many elements go into a shared creation. And have a look to see if you can see them exploring that concept as well as developing physical skills.
You know what this story's called? It's called Stone Soup. You want to know how to make stone soup? Well, we need to move this story together, okay? Are you ready? I'll be the voice, you guys be the bodies, okay? How would you walk or move around our gym if you were tired and hungry on the way from the wars? Don't tell me, but show me. Say, look. How are you moving? How are you walking down the road? Come on, show us. Now keep going. You tired, hungry soldiers, I'm going to continue while you're walking, okay? They push sacks of barley underneath the lofts. Can you push those sacks of barley? Push them down. They lower buckets of milk down the wells. Can you lower the milk down the wells? They spread old quilts over the carrot bins. They hid their cabbages and potatoes under the bed. Push them under the bed. They hung their beans in the cellars. Hand it up. They hid all they had to eat. Then they waited. Can you guys wait? We have asked you for food and you have no food. Well then, we'll have to make stone soup. Exactly, that's what the peasant said. You guys try that. Stone soup? Stone soup? Come on, pick it up. 1, 2, 3. Oh, bring it this way. Come on, bring it this way. Oh, this is where the pot goes, right here. And everybody set it down. 1, 2, 3. Oh, fill it up. Go, fill it up again. Come on, get buckets. Fill it up. Fill it up, and soup pot. Go push. Put the salt and pepper in. Carrots, guys. Can you put carrots in? Oh, and make sure you chop them up in there. Chop them up. Don't forget to chop your carrots. Oh, maybe green cabbage. Okay. Can you find any cabbage? Oh, did you put it in the pot? Don't forget to put it in the pot. Oh, you threw it in the pot. Okay. Oh, what's next in this demonstration? Okay, stir. Show me how you would stir it up. Stir it up. At last, the soup was ready. Come on back. We're getting ready to eat. All of you shall taste. So I can put on bread and roast. And this is a beautiful table here, Francis. I could put food on your table. Yes, I'm putting on bread and a roast and cider. Yes, beautiful. Oh, let me set your table. Set the table. Set the table. How am I going to set this table? It's going to fall right off. Can you fix it? Set the table, Kat. You got to lift it and hold it. Set the table. Set the table. And after that, they dance. Go dance.
Okay, yes, the boy with the curly hair. Yes, he's awesome. So that's an example of a moving story that I borrow. You know, I'm using an old story. Actually, I remember reading that story when I was a little kid too, and I love it. And it begins our unit on creative movement, where we use lots of different stories. And during that unit, it's called the Magic Soup Pot. We use that pot and we put the cover pages from each of the stories that we make inside. So it's kind of like the stories are mixing together, right, to become like a delicious brew that we can enjoy again and again. And the students really, yes, it's churned up. Yes, exactly. And the students really enjoy exploring inside the soup pot and remembering the stories that they've learned, and maybe seeing one that they didn't understand or they missed before, right? So it's really a cool unit. But in that example, it wasn't perfect. Maybe it even looked a bit messy. Play-based learning often looks like that, but that's okay, right? It's crucial that teachers guide students to learn through developmentally appropriate transdisciplinary approaches. And it's not always going to be perfect, but it's going to be really engaging for the students. And then also, you saw this in PE class, but some of the concepts we explored could also occur in the classroom setting just as easily. Moving stories, the marriage of movement and literacy can occur anywhere. So let's conclude this section here by exploring some of the benefits of using moving stories. Now, I think you have an idea of what moving stories are or could be, right? And why should we use them, right? And we can look at it in the context of this year's TIES theme, igniting ideas through invitation, interaction, and infinite possibilities. So moving stories invite children into imaginary worlds where they can explore concepts, problems, and solutions, right? So this is the invitation, right? What better invitation than join in a story, right? And how can we explore? We're inside the world. What can we see? What can we do? What are the possibilities, right? Also, moving stories break down barriers between disciplines, enabling knowledge transfer. So we can take what we learned in PE class, we can use them when we're exploring a book. We can take what we learned in writer's workshop and explore that through physical skills, right? We can use our narrative structure, you know, we can talk about characters, we can talk about plot, we can talk about intro, conclusion, what have you. We can talk about directional language, like forward, back, up, down, first, next, last, beginning, middle, end. We can use all of this, and we'll talk about that later on. So we're getting a little bit more tasty if you think about that metaphor of the cake, right? I don't know if we're at a cake right now, but maybe we're at a salad, right? We are mixing the carrots together as well as the lettuce and the tomatoes. Yes. Moving stories allow students to connect prior knowledge of stories to activate foundation skill development, right? That's a connection. We're kind of talking about this, right? And then moving stories provide opportunities for interaction with literature, environmental design, technology, and each other. So that's another interact idea. You know, we can, as somebody said, you can use props. Yes. You can design an environment for the students to be in, kind of like a conceptual play world. Yes. You can use technology, green screen, you know, what's it called? God, I'm trying to think of, I'm blanking on the book creator. You can use your iPads to, you know, and different apps to document your story, right? What are we doing? We're igniting ideas through invitation, interaction, and infinite possibilities with moving stories. Okay. So, oh, somebody says it seems crazy that we try and get kids to sit still for stories all the time. You know, I get a little bit cheeky when I do that. I say, your teachers, your classroom teachers, they want you to sit still and listen to a story. But here in PE class, we move the story. And it's, why can't you do it? Why can't it be done in the classroom, right? We've reached another reflection point here. I've actually entitled this thinking protocol Alien Mirrors. Okay, kind of a weird one, but go with it. So what is an aspect, this, I'm going to ask you to reflect. What's an aspect of moving stories that is alien to the way you teach now? What doesn't connect for you? And then on the other hand, what's an aspect of moving stories that mirrors the way you teach now? So if something's alien, we might have to change something about our routines, right? But if something's a mirror or something's mirroring what you do, maybe we recognize that and we play it up even more. So I'm going to give you some time to think now. Again, you can use the QR code. You can use the link there in the chat. You can use the chat itself. Please have a thought.
So just to go back and highlight, by the way, my Mentimeter page refreshed halfway through that video and it blew up with so many people connecting and extending and challenging. So while everybody's putting those in again, just some things to highlight. I think Sadia was asking if you recommended any stories. Alka recommended The Enormous Turnip, but that might be something to come back to later. And here we go. The alien is happening right here. Wow. So we've got that, here we are. Wow, everything's coming in so fast. So the first resistance that teachers will say are the language groups, that incorporating specific stretches and yoga poses related to beneficial physical development. And then the mirror is that the transdisciplinary nature of covering in its scope with concepts and skills. Andy's saying that an aspect of moving stories that's alien to me is the freedom of it. She likes controlled freedom and moving them towards a fixed outcome, but being more free would be a bit better. I totally agree and relate to that, Andy. I'm the guilty one of saying we should sit while we're reading aloud. And then Aisha is saying that would she always find stories that allow movement? I think that ties into that original question of like, are there stories that are particularly recommended, or could it be open to any story really?
We're going to talk about that. And actually, if anybody has access to the Padlet, there's a list of stories that I have used so far. And I'll just say now, I'm asking for people to comment on that list too, on that Google Doc, if you have any ideas. Oh, the
Amazing.
Padlet Somebody's asking for the Padlet
The
link.
Padlet link, this everything and all the resources will be available, and it will be sent a little closer to the end of the session for those of you asking. Karen's mentioning that a challenge is with very little kids is that at times they start moving and then it's hard to control them. I think somebody in the Mentimeter also was asking about like, what do you do with children who are struggling to control their bodies? Like, how could this work with them?
Right. Well, usually when they're struggling to control their bodies is when, and I see from head to toe, definitely, is when they're asked to sit still, right? And we do want them to practice that executive function skill, right? But sometimes you saw in the example, I edited it for time. That was probably a 10 to 12 minute activity that edited down to 3.5 minutes. So there's a mix of both there. We come back and we sit and we listen, right? But then, right, when we start wiggling, that's when we're moving again, right? You know, and then it's kind of a push and pull, right? Or an ebb and flow. You know, we come back, we practice sitting still, then we get that movement that we need, right? Then we come back, you know, and it's a constant process there. So I totally hear actually what is alien. Someone says degree of freedom, control, chaos. Yes, 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 it is. But I would question how you are how you're perceiving how you're perceiving the learning, right? Your own perception can sometimes be very harsh, right? And I used to think that same way. And, you know, like, what if somebody came and saw this? Oh my goodness, the kids are wild and they're just going crazy. But the flip side of that is if we change the perception to this is actually what learning looks like at this level, and we need to do education for the other people who don't understand that, right? You know, that really freed me when I made that jump. When I said I need to, you know, I love a quiet, nice, chill classroom, right? But that isn't necessarily always where the learning is happening, right? You know, I really love a buzzing classroom, right? Where there's lots of talk, where we're hearing vocabulary, where we're seeing lots of action, where students are engaged, right? And it does, as I said, it looks messy. It does, it can. But then what we need to do is kind of actually educate on the other side. This is what early learning looks like. This is what active physical development and language development looks like, right? So I understand that fear and I hear you. I totally hear you. But I think, and of course, there's a time. There's a balance for all of this, right? It's not that I'm saying moving stories all the time, anytime, right? But there is a place for it, right? And it's a really interesting strategy that we're going to learn more about very soon. What do you think,
I'm loving
Lean?
as well. I think, yeah, we're almost there. I think your Mentimeter and your chat are blowing up. You guys are an amazing audience, by the way. A common
Yes.
theme that's coming up, I think a lot of people are relating to the fact that kids can act out their stories, whether it's a story they're reading or writing after the fact. And I think a lot of people are now getting really interested into somebody's mentioning that it's actually opening a door to more collaboration and that trying
Yeah.
things during might change things up a little. Somebody's made a connection in the Mentimeter to like using this for science as well, beyond just
Mm-hmm.
this like turning a science concept and inquiry into a story.
There's a
So yeah,
the conceptual play world idea is based entirely on that, actually, using stories and imagination to explore STEM concepts, actually. And I didn't have time to talk about conceptual play worlds in this presentation, which is actually an idea that I learned about in a previous TODL conference. But We Are Going on a Bear Hunt is one that I've actually used as a conceptual play world. So it's a world inside of our school. It's basically like a moving storybook. And the students, it's a prepared environment or not, where we just decide that we're on a bear hunt, right? And that's a topic for another day. We don't have time for that today because we need to move on. But anyways, we need to learn more, and the titles are coming fast and furious as well. And remember, keep those for when you get the Padlet. And I would love for you to comment on my Google Doc there of my list. There's
Maybe
a
now would
list.
be a great time, Ritu, if we could get that Padlet link in. We'll try to send it in the chat as soon as possible, and then we'll refresh it a few times as well.
Yeah, I don't have it handy right now. I hope maybe Ritu.
I'll
I
myself
can
or
send
Ritu
it
will.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to move on, and we're going to capitalize on all that energy you guys have now, because we're going to be using moving stories. Now that we know the what and why of moving stories, let's delve into the how. So the ideas in this section will prepare you to create moving stories yourself or with your students. And here are some general tips for using and creating moving stories. First of all, we always want to start with the concept. So the concept is going to focus your moving story. It's kind of like a conceptual lens for a unit, right? Because there's a lot of different stories we can choose, and it's hard to find one, or it's hard to pick just one. So if you're looking for stories to adapt to a moving framework, keeping a concept in mind allows you to choose from a broader range of text, because the search will not be topic based, right? If you want a story about bears, there's a lot of stories about bears, and it may be hard to find the right one. But if you want a story about observation, you can bring in stories that are about bears, you can bring in stories that are about aardvarks, whatever, right? You know, like, so the concept broadens, but also focuses as well. Okay. So if you're creating your own moving stories, the concept will provide your blueprint. Somebody was talking about this. You know, how do you meet standards, right? Well, you choose your concept, right? You start with what you want to learn. Engaging stories feature exciting characters, utilizing a host of characters such as animals, monsters, ninjas, heroines, vampires, and more. You know, as we start to get more and more crazy, it will encourage positive engagement with your story using interesting characters. Also, creating an engaging moving story should involve some stakes, right? It's a problem to solve or a change that occurs. Research shows that these stories capture more attention and promote engagement with the text. And making stories meaningful for children increases the likelihood of them engaging with the text, right? This could, I think that's the next one, actually. Make it meaningful. This could involve staying abreast, or should involve staying abreast of current trends in kid culture and incorporating these elements. This gets harder and harder for me as my son gets older and older. When I first started at my school, he was in K1 and I knew everything, but now he's a little bit older, but my students have stayed the same age. So I have to kind of do my research, which is a funny way of looking at it, but it's important though, what the kids like. And then, of course, we're going to keep movement in mind at each step of the process. What kind of movements do we want? And I always tell my students, like I said before, we don't just read and write stories, we move them. And we plan for the types of movement that we expect to see at each step of the story. But we're also ready to fling that plan away if the students develop an innovative idea. So those are some ideas for how to start, some kind of guidelines for moving stories, right? Interesting question about AI. I haven't yet, but you know, it's coming. I'm sure I will sometime soon. I've thought about I've been trying to use like Midjourney for some of the images I use, because sometimes I need very specific images, but I haven't really found that much success with it right now. I need to maybe pay for it.
Greg
Okay.
was bringing up earlier as well that using ChatGPT to generate a moving story would also be a good idea. So there's lots of opportunities, definitely something to explore.
Well, that's interesting, but you know, the thing is that actually the kids become my ChatGPT, right? Because they're the ones that are giving me the ideas. They have those crazy ideas. And here's an example right here. This is a brainstorming template that I used with my students. So this is one class. Our unit was on movement composition, and we chose the creative movement element energy as our concept. Okay, so like strong and light. How are you moving? That's the concept, energy. And I led the students in a collaborative brainstorming session where we devised the characters, setting, and plot. So our concept up here at the top was energy. They chose an elephant for something that moves strongly, and they chose a little hamster for something that moves lightly. And then the setting was a frozen lake in the forest. And we were using all this vocabulary at the same time. And then, so you can see here, I'm using images from Giphy that are animated. These are the stickers, not just GIFs, but stickers. So they have no background. And then, or Google, of course. And that just kind of accommodates all learners, right? So they don't have to read, but they can, right? And so it's kind of that text-rich environment. And you can see the video of this story called The Ice Dancers in the Padlet again. It's the folder is called Moving Stories Videos, and there are also other moving stories examples there as well. So now's when we get exciting. We're going to illustrate this process for creating meaningful moving stories with your students. We are going to collaboratively choose a concept and brainstorm the framework of a story. This process hopefully will give you insight into how you can pursue moving stories with your students and the resources and strategies you might employ. Okay, so let's choose a concept for our story, okay? Now, I've thrown out a few suggestions here, so if you see one that interests you, say so in the chat. Or if you have a better idea for a concept, let's put that, go ahead and put that into the chat. And Lean and I are going to maybe choose the most popular. And this is actually what I have, not for the concept, of course, I'm choosing the concept for the children usually. But
We've got a few nominations for belonging, but I think change is coming up a lot. Relationships, I think change and relationships are the top two so far.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, belonging is a subsection of relationships. So those two, I'm gonna let you make that call.
That's starting to look like I think relationships has been the one I've been seeing most often. Okay, so this is what I would do with my students. Actually, this is a good idea, right? Or gives you an idea of what I have to do, because I'm taking the role of the facilitator now, right? You're gonna be getting a lot of ideas and you're kind of guiding, right? Now I'm coming out of present mode because we are going to make our relationship story, and you guys are the authors, the Toddle Inquiry educators. Nice work. So we've got our concept there as relationship. Now we need some characters, guys. Or maybe let's talk setting first. Sometimes it's nice to start with a setting. Where do we want our story to be set? Our story about relationships. What are we interested in here?
So go ahead and shoot that in the chat.
Interesting setting.
Marco's saying at a park. We've got Kendra, mountaintop, the Sahara Desert, school playgrounds. A few schools are coming up, forest woods, and the beach. I think that's where a lot of people would like to be, maybe right
there you
now.
go. Yeah.
Schools come up a lot. And yeah, deserted island came up too. And my neighborhood street, supermarket.
Wow.
On an airplane.
Okay, so this is
might have to rock, paper, scissors this.
We get a lot of ideas here. Yeah. Okay. And then, so I might, at some point as a facilitator, you have to say, okay, do we have maybe we have to go to a vote. Maybe we have to put it to a vote. But at this point, I'm going to just make Lean the bad guy. Lean, what do you want our setting to be from all the delightful ideas? I'm
curious about this one. I'm gonna go with Mars, even though it was just one suggestion. I think it might be fun. Let's see what happens.
Great. With Mars it is. And you guys can still see that I've typed it in there, right? Yes? Now I might go into, while I'm looking for a nice picture of Mars, can you guys come up with the characters? We need at least, let's say 2 characters that we're going to use in our story. Go ahead and throw them in the chat.
All right. We're getting some really funky ideas here.
Okay. That's better.
Yeah. We've got a Martian named Joe, some monkeys, some humans, a mosquito on Mars, perhaps a dog. I'll go with the majority rules on this one. So if you see something you like, feel free to repeat it. We've got the Muppets, a space rover, a 15-year-old trans, aliens, more aliens, dogs, teacher and students, the Minions, Mars Bob, Mars Joe,
Okay, now
space
continue. Let's
rover.
think about our concept too, because we need something that can have a relationship, right? So
Exactly.
what are these? Maybe we need, I think a robot could be a good idea.
Yeah,
Tom and Jerry on Mars. Okay. You know,
love it, right?
okay, well, I see two Tom and
That
Jerry's
came
there.
up. That's coming up. If you want Tom and Jerry, better keep putting it in the chat. We've got two so
Oh,
far, a robot and a
Bigfoot
scientist. So I
upvoting.
think
Oh,
those are
there's
the
an
top
upvote
two.
for Bigfoot.
Yeah. Let's see. Tom and Jerry's come up three
Tom
times.
and
That's
Jerry.
it.
Okay,
I'm
we're
just
gonna have
going
to
with Tom
call
and
it here, I
Jerry.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
that's
gonna
it.
have
I'm
to call
calling
it.
it.
And then if you guys can come up with some sort of plot, what's gonna happen to Tom and Jerry where we're gonna talk about you know, their relationship? Are they gonna have a fight? Are they going to have to team up? What's gonna happen with Tom and Jerry? Are they gonna have to find each other? Is one missing? What sounds interesting to you guys?
So we've got a team up or chasing each other around Mars. I'm having so much fun with this. Okay, so we've got teaming up, finding each other, facing challenges together. So their whole dynamic now is going to change, right? Because instead of trying to kill each other, now they both have to help each other to survive, I guess, is
Ah,
what's coming up
exactly.
too. So they're on a mission and solving problems together. So they're fighting at first, but then they become friends. Okay, I think this is a common theme,
Yeah,
collaborating
yeah,
to survive. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, insert the image for Jerry. I need just
There we
Jerry by
go.
himself. There we go. Okay. So, and I'm just
So we've
doing
got
this
like a
quick. I was
changing,
probably,
yeah, changing
so we're
relationship here where
saying,
they're kind of,
yeah.
yeah. So
So
they're
Tom
kind of
and
like fitting
Jerry,
into their usual dynamic and then having to team up to survive. Either a spaceship crash has come up or being able to coexist because they're alone on Mars or
yeah,
having a spaceship
right.
failure. We were talking about ChatGPT earlier, but we could also just use the Zoom chat, right? You guys are
Yeah,
ChatGPTs
that's what I
now.
was saying. It's like I actually usually because I only see the kids for a little bit, I help them with the story, but they are my Chat GPT, right? Because they come up with these ideas. And then I kind of use Book Creator and then we refine the story from there. They need to team up to get back to Earth, something like that, right? So that could
Yeah.
be, we just created our moving story right there. And then we're gonna move on now to talk about, and I believe, tell me how much time we have, Lean. How much time do we have?
I think we could keep going for another. We've still got like 15 more minutes or so, 5 to 10 maybe. And if we want to leave time for the Q&A at the end, I would say let's
Perfect.
aim for
We're right on
five,
time.
six
This is
minutes or
going
so.
great.
Yeah.
So guys, give yourselves a clap. You just made your moving story. We just
This is
brainstormed our
amazing.
own moving story, and now we have options, right? What can we do with it? Well, if you have time, like I don't have because I see my students for 35 minutes twice a week, you could use a storyboard, right? And you can use this to aid in your moving story creations, right? Simple example here. Obviously, I think I put this in the Padlet as well. Yeah, I think I have templates in the Padlet that I use for the brainstorming as well as you could use for storyboard. And the great thing about storyboarding is all the vocabulary that comes into play. These terms are essential for students to understand narrative structure, right? Like beginning, middle, end, introduction, climax, falling action, conclusion, first, next, last, right? Whoops. Wow. Go back.
Just while that's happening, you're getting so
Yep.
much thanks. People are feeling empowered to try this. And I have to say the door opening for some transdisciplinary and cross-subject work and collaboration is just huge here. So
Yeah,
thank
I
you for
think that really like once you, as we were talking about, once you let go of that notion that the story is quiet and static and seated, right? We can get into so much more, right? And it's kind of just like that kind of you know, thought leap that you need to make, right? So then also, and yeah, so the students can create the storyboard. You can do it together. If they can't write, they can draw pictures. If they can write, they can do both, and you just kind of use each cell as an event in the story. So this is like the beginning of outlining as well, and if we want a math tie-in, it's sequencing. If you want a literacy, of course, it's narrative structure, all the vocabulary that we'll be using. We can, we can spice up with adjectives. We can do whatever we want. And the movement really, it gives them a way to describe, because they actually have to move their body. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, I am crashing onto the planet. How are you crashing onto the planet? Clumsily, with a bang, that kind of thing. So it gets more of the language going. Yes. And then I want to touch also on options for presenting moving stories. These are the ones that I have used. And you can also see in the Padlet an option to see specific examples in the folder called Examples of Publishing Options. So, of course, we could use Toddle, our digital learning, as a digital learning journal, right? Like the workbook function. That could work. I could see that. My usual go-to at the beginning, as you see, is Google Slides with Giphy as or Google Images as my bank of images. We can just perform it. Good old-fashioned readers theater, right? Take on a role, audience, performers, switch, who wants to be this character? Also, when you're doing that, and just a tip, you don't have to have one of each character. You can have many of each character if you want to, maximize participation. I know that sometimes can be an obstacle to, using readers theater because there's too many kids sitting, but we can have more than one, right? Video editing software. I've used green screen. I use personally Camtasia, but iMovie is free and awesome. Of course, we can make our own books, right? Good old-fashioned analog paper, which is awesome. Kids get really excited about that, right? And the great thing about that is that it's really hands-on. You really control it. You can use a lot of different materials. You can make them fast books or, take longer. And then also they can be added to your class library, right? So you have your authors, your class authors inside your class library, right? And then, of course, I talked about Book Creator before. I really love Book Creator. This is a picture of a library that I have made before. I believe that is inside, maybe a QR code inside the examples there. If not, you can email me later and I can share you some of my Book Creator libraries. We've got some awesome books that we've come up with over the years. I think we've been doing it for 3 years. And also inside the examples, there's pictures of the Moving Stories library that my students help us create for a creativity in an innovation exhibition that we did at our school. So there was physical books there was videos, and alongside all kinds of other creative work that the students did in their homeroom classes. And we had an exhibition in the lobby for all parents. You can kind of see a video of that and pictures from it inside the Padlet as well. So another idea for presenting, make an exhibition, all right? So before we go, I want to invite you to consider your Moving Stories experience. Please take a moment to think back on what you have learned. What did you see that sticks with you? Or notice, right? What does this new or reaffirming action make you think, or information, sorry. And what are you wondering now? So this is kind of a take on good old see, think, wonder. What did you notice? What will stick with you? What does it make you think? And what are you wondering now? Again, you have many options for engaging.
I'm keeping my eyes on both the Mentimeter and the chat, but you have so much appreciation coming your way, Zach, even from myself. Like I am taking away so much from this session, even though I'm a grade 5 teacher, I really feel like this is so applicable and so relevant at any age. And I know that that topic's come up a few times in the chat too.
You know, the older
Um,
they are, just the more, you know, the more crazy ideas you get and like more, and then
100%.
you can also just take it further, right? You know, they
So
have
a lot of,
more skills, right? Hopefully. So
absolutely.
you can, and just take it a step further. Maybe the kids, you know, I usually act as facilitator. Maybe the kids can fill out the template for themselves at grade 5, right? And then
100%.
yeah, go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. This is amazing. So yeah, coming in from the chat, you've got a lot of things coming through. So everybody's really excited. Everybody, I think a lot of people are committed to actually trying this. Some takeaways are that it's involving so many different skills and disciplines. Again, that opportunity for collaboration and just building on each other's work as a learning community. I think collaboration is a really strong theme coming up in a few. A lot of people are just really valuing the importance of physical movement to engagement and learning opportunities and considering how to make learning come to life with a lot of new inspiration. That one came from Andy. And then that the stories are not only structured but also spontaneous. I love that from Kajari. That's a great takeaway. Um, Annie's mentioning that she can see that stories can be more fun, and she's thinking that there are so many things that you suggested. So many that Padlet is a great toolkit, and she's wondering what else could be possible. So how else could you like kind of make the stories have more meaning or make it better? So that's opening a new door. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to touch because I saw this person asked multiple times about feedback and assessment. Now,
Mhm.
there's a couple kind of schools of thought on this, right? Like, first of all, you could kind of, you know, you can video to, you know, do observations, anecdotal observations to, you know, kind of reflect on there. And then, but also there's kind of an idea. I think I read this book called Literacy Play Shop, which is a really cool book. And the idea that, well, so if a kid didn't participate that much, you know, what did they get out of it? Or do they really have ownership over it? And I say yes, you know, because they're a part of that experience, right? And I think the book would say that as well, you know, and also there is, you know, there's a range of participation options in a movement story, right? We can be an actor, we can be a writer, we can be a brainstormer, but we can also be an observer, right? And observation is definitely a legitimate role for someone, for example, in my context, that doesn't have language, right? Or is working on developing English language skills. So were they present there? Were they engaged? Yes. Were they engaging in the way that they can, that was developmentally appropriate for them at that point? Yes, they were. So, you know, I don't really, as a class, I don't really get into ownership of the stories that much. Like, oh, that was her idea, that was his idea, you know? It's our story, right? And everybody who was there is participating in it and has ownership over it, right? So exactly, as Kendra said, allows kids with limited language to feel successful, because this is a way that they can be successful, right? You don't have to use language to participate in a moving story, but you are receiving language, you're experiencing language, but you are engaging with it in your own way. So that's just a
And
note
just
on assessment, right?
another question that's come up a few times is a bit about classroom management. And I think that, you know, building on what you've been saying, like
Should I
when
move
it
to the
comes to class,
question page right now, right?
yeah, I think,
Yep.
yeah, we can open the floor for questions for 2 minutes, drop them into the chat, but you've had a few about classroom management.
Yep.
I think just from experience, a lot of the kids that are having some behavior issues are the ones that need to move. So
Yes, exactly. And you know what? I get to see the other side of those kids in PE class, because a lot of those kids that are having trouble in the classroom, PE is their superpower, right? So that's I have there. It's always interesting to have a different view of a child. Sometimes when a classroom teacher and I are talking about a particular student, like, oh, he's having a lot of trouble with focus. Oh, really? He's insanely good in my PE class, you know? So it's that is their language, right? And what happens to those who can't calm down or might start pushing, punching? Well, that happens, but we deal with it, right? I've always been of the the opinion that we don't do something because we worry that conflict will arise. Actually, conflict is healthy, right? And it's a learning opportunity, yes? So sometimes I even steer into those, and we can, you can use it as a learning opportunity as well. Like, what happened? Let's talk to each other. Let's come to a resolution, right? What agreements and intentions do you set up before beginning a moving story session? Well, yeah, exactly. Like, that's kind of what we might talk about, right? Like, we're going to use our bodies, but what kind of space are we going to use? Are we going to try to find open space, the space where nobody is, so we're not hurting each other? Can we keep each other safe, right? How can we keep each other safe? These are all things that we would talk about before. That's kind of, like, you see the moving story there, and you saw the kids being pretty constructive, right? But that's, again, and you're right to point this out, that's after having added to their toolbox, right? And come to some agreements. Just like we came to some agreements at the beginning of this session about how kids best learn, we come to agreements in PE class about how we best learn when we're using moving stories. And you can control that. That's for you to decide, right? What works in your context.
And I think ultimately the buy-in that you had in that video is just so fantastic. And that kind of engagement is something that really helps in these situations. And that passion that you are having and that the students are enjoying was something that was so beautiful and powerful to see. Because these behavior management issues that you might see, you could see them in any class, really. It's up to you to manage that. And doing an activity like this isn't necessarily going to push kids, over the edge into this behavior. It's a whole school, whole community kind of thing.
Yeah, I would definitely go for engagement over, apathy and, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, like control and compliance, right? Yes, exactly. Christine said it right there. I'm not looking for compliance. Sometimes we are, there's always, there's no absolutes here, right? Sometimes there's a time for that. We wouldn't do moving stories when we want kids to, really calm down. We might do like a guided meditation or something like that, right? But this is just another tool in your toolbox, and I hope that you guys use it. And if you do, find me, and we're going to have my contact information later on, and let me know how it's going. Okay. I would love to see your ideas on moving stories.
So
And
much.
Yeah, go ahead.
So much appreciation coming your way. And based on the engagement in the chat, I think a lot of people are going to try using this. I'm just a bit mindful of the time. So I'm going to point you in the next direction where you can do some networking with Kirtida and Arnavaz. But Zach, this has been an incredible session. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure and an honor sharing this learning experience with you. Thank you for leading us through this journey. Really, it's been amazing. People are requesting if you have a YouTube channel and everybody wants to follow you. So please tag Zach, please tag Total Ties. This has been so incredible. And thank you so much, Zach. This has been magic. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And I just want to, here's my info as well. And also, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. And it wouldn't have been as awesome, which I think it was awesome. And I thank you so much because you guys were so engaged, so sharing, so open. I have a Twitter, of course, or X, as you might call it these days. I have a blog, or kind of a website called earlyyearspyppe.com, which also has a link to my YouTube page. I actually did basically during COVID, my like kind of thing to work on was getting better at video editing, and we did like kind of a 10-session moving story about striking called Strike Force Heroes. It's actually about an hour and a half long in different segments, so you could find that. And of course, email me, hit me on Twitter. If you want to comment on the list of moving stories that work as a Google or as a, so did I say that right? Comment on the Google Doc about moving stories or stories that work as moving stories to add you. Someone says, please share your website and the YouTube page. It's right there. It's earlyyearspyppe.com. And I feel like I'm babbling now. So thank you guys very much. And thank you, Lean, and thank you, Toddle.
Thank you all. I've dropped that Padlet link again where you can see the slide deck and then save all of those things if you didn't get the chance to now. This has been incredible. Thank you, Zach. What a great
Thank
learning
you
experience.
so
Honestly,
much.
so many takeaways. This is awesome. So have a great rest of experience in the ties, everybody, and we will see you in the next session. Thank you so much.